basically. Okay, so here's our virtual tour. There are the triple gates. There are the double gates. There are the steps going up, and we just saw the remnants of these steps. We think this is an area for ritual purity right here, some pools inside. And of course, look at this beautiful Herodian building. Now, if you go to Hebron, still today, to the tomb of the patriarchs, you can see the style Herod used to build such structures still intact because it wasn't destroyed. And that's how this is reconstructed. It's very close to how it must have looked. So, how many times did Jesus, we're talking about the historical Jesus, go up and down these steps, enter into these gates? They're called the Hulda gates. Some argue that it's named for a prophetess named Hulda in the Hebrew Bible, but Hulda also means a mouse or a burrowing animal. And in fact, when you go in these gates, you go through a kind of a tunnel and come up. And I think that maybe makes more sense. They're the tunnel gates, basically, the Hulda gates. And this is where all the crowds would come up from the south and enter Jerusalem. And on the day that Jesus took over the temple, remember, and closed it down for a day, we think the money changers and all the commerce and the animals are right inside once you go in and up, and we'll see that virtually. So this is actually a video, and we can watch it, and I'll stop it from time to time and talk as we go through. I love this so much. I hope you enjoy it. So we're going to go around. So that's the southern side of the temple. That's how you would go in. Now let's go up high and take a look. Look at this. And this wonderful pavilion that's built. And this is where you would come out right here. See this? So let's go back down inside. And it's not just a tunnel, it's a magnificent gate. And here, these are still visible today. This was not destroyed. And I'm going to pause it there and just talk about this. You know, in the book of Acts, the disciples, after Jesus is dead, we have a whole set of chapters in the early part of Acts where they go up to the temple to pray. They go up to the temple, they preach, they teach, and they're in the whole portico area. And one of the gates is called the Gate Beautiful. And many have suggested that this might be that gate. And there's a good story in the book of Acts you can look up. These are just extraordinary, and they show you something of the magnificence of even a gate. But wait till you see what's upstairs once you go back up, because we just came down. So let me continue here. We'll go on and see. This is how people would come into the temple. Picture crowds streaming in here. Now, this is going around the corner, and we've got Robinson's Arch. Robinson, Edward Robinson, an American explorer, archaeologist. It was named after him. He identified it. It's talked about in the literature. And here's the lower city. You can see the commerce and the shops. The Hulda gates go up through the lower area into the upper area. But when you come into this area, you basically have this palatial structure that Herod built that's Josephus says is maybe one of the most beautiful structures in the world. And we'll go inside in a minute as we come around. So there you get a virtual view. This is inside once you get in. And this would be where we think the money changers were and all the commerce and picture cages of animals and so forth. This is where they're going to sort everything out. This is where they're going to take the animals that people have brought in up the steps and examine them and so forth. And look how beautiful this is as we look at the ceiling and so forth. And this is referred to often in the New Testament and the Gospels. This would be where Jesus would also teach and preach over the next week. And you see how crowds would gather in these areas. So now we're going to go on. So now to the south, just to take a quick look at the Fortress Antonio, you've got the Roman camp inside. And here you have a very fortified area, almost impregnable. Nobody could get through this. And they've got a view of the whole area. Remember when Paul gets arrested in the book of Acts? He gets arrested and taken into that fortress up those steps. So I paused right here because this would be that outer court where anyone could go. But if you go past this low barrier here, it's just a warning. You can see it's easy to enter. But at each gate, there's a very stern warning sign, no Gentiles allowed upon penalty of death. And then you would have women and children and Israelites inside the inner court. And then this is the court of the women with the two lamp pillars up high there. And then there's the court of Israelite men. Women can go around the balcony, as you're going to see. And then finally, inside here is where the priests are and the sacrifices. So let's go up closer and take a look at this. As we come on down, we're going to see the warning that is there to warn everybody, don't go any further. Look at that. And here we have the warning in Greek. A portion of one of these signs or stones was discovered. It's now in Turkey because it was found under the Ottoman rule, but Israel has tried to get it back and maybe they will someday. Remember, Paul is accused of bringing a Gentile past the barrier. That's how he gets arrested and causes a riot in the temple, and also why he ends up fleeing to Nero, Caesar, and ending up in Rome, according to the book of Acts. Okay, this is the court of the women. It's the next court once you go inside, and it's got these wonderful bronze doors, and you have these four lamps. Josephus describes all this. And at certain times of the year, depending on festivals and holidays and so forth, if men are here separated from the women can be up here and still watch the activities down below. So let's watch that as we go further in. And underneath, you've got this beautiful tiled area, and some of these tiles have been found, and so we actually know the pattern. That's the court of women, as it's called. It really just means the court of mixed groups. Those women can go there as well. But you also have these offering boxes. There are 13 of them, according to our records historically. And that's where Jesus would have seen the woman drop in her 2 copper coins right here into one of these. So they were gathered inside this area when he was teaching and being questioned and so forth. So we can begin to picture what it looks like as we go on. This is really an amazing video. Thank you, Jeremy, for doing this. And there's the other offerings. People are coming in, they're leaving their money. You got to picture processions coming in, people announcing loudly, and now the delegation from Corinth has arrived with all of their many gifts for the temple. And they would be bringing all their silver and their gold. And remember, they got to convert it into the Tyrian shekels. So you're going to see the silver coins dropping down in, and it gives you the setting. And Jesus observes that and he says to his disciples, did you see that woman, what she just gave? It didn't make a big clank noise, did it? Wasn't a whole bag of coins going down in. And he said, she gave more than anybody here today. One of his most famous teachings. Very important for understanding the agenda of Jesus in terms of what is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you poor. Blessed are the meek and those that are persecuted and being downtrodden and oppressed. So this gives you the kind of scene that you can imagine that happening. And then we go through these wonderful bronze doors. They're made of Corinthian bronze, very expensive. And these huge doors open up from the main court where women are also allowed. And it opens up into the area where the sacrifices are brought. Now we're going to go up in our drone and we're going to get an overview of the whole area that we just talked about. I hope you can orient yourself a little bit. Looking south there, you see the portico going all the way around. And there's the Mount of Olives facing east. And this would be facing north where you're going to see the fortress again. And we go all the way around. and you can see the upper city behind. So I want to give credit to Leen Ritmeyer. Here's a link to his book. If you just go to my website, jamestabor.com, and type in / The Quest, it'll take you to this book on Amazon, and you can buy it. Highly, highly recommended. There's no book like this. This is the book you need. And then you can go to YouTube at Bible Scenes, and Jeremy Park has teamed up with Ritmeyer's input and created this virtual tour of the temple that I'm going to share with you now. So I want to give Leen and Jeremy credit. Leen has spent decades and decades excavating and studying this area. He's basically the expert. And Jeremy does such wonderful work.